Welcome back to Straight Facts by Dinar Investor. Dinar Investor, we have a lot of newbies. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Over the weekend, when I did the video with Brad, I stressed to you, in my opinion, that I strongly felt the government was already formed, done, and complete. Even though current articles are telling us that Sauter's going, I'm sorry, not Sauter, Mahdi, the current PM, is going to replace his current cabinet with nonpartisan officials. So let's go through the articles I have because I lean very fact based on my YouTube channel. So I wanted to go through these with you. So guys, here's the first article. This is from June 14th of 2018, shortly after Iraq's elections. Okay, and one of the things that Sauter's big push in these elections was to form a nonpartisan government. Okay, and one thing I want to stress to you about Sauter is usually very vocal. If something doesn't go right or is not where he would like it to be, he gets very vocal and he'll either start demonstrations or something like that. But after these elections, Sauter wasn't very vocal. He actually stayed fairly quiet. Okay, so let's get into these articles. All right, so again, this first one, this is after the elections back on June 14th of 2018. Okay, you can see right there on that highlighted part that Sauter's big push, even though Sauter did win the elections, his big push was to form a nonpartisan cross-sectarian government. Okay, now another title that they labeled this right here, guys, where the mouse is moving, was a technocrat government. Okay, so I just wanted to show that to you. Okay, so let's keep pushing forward. So again, Sauter's big push after the elections, clear back to 18, was to have a nonpartisan technocrat government. Okay, well, guys, after they voted, okay, back in earlier this year of it would have been February 27th of 2018. One of the things that you heard me brought up in the meeting or in that video I did with Brad, okay, they had what was called the National Reconciliation Meeting. One of the things that I've stressed to my audience back then is I said, guys, they're going to start telling you they're unified. And they actually did. They used unified multiple times, and I was able to show that to my audience. Okay, what took place at these national reconciliation, guys, is this meeting occurred when they were during their parliamentary recess, which was about the whole month of February, at the beginning of 18. It was on February 27th of this year of 19, and all the newly elected government officials, guys, were at this meeting. Okay, let's get into the meeting. I highlighted some key points with you right here. Some of the things they discussed was the implementation of the government program. The government program, guys, what I've been telling my audience is that the government program is actually everything that's going to happen, and that it's the new lives for the citizens after the rate change. It's Article 140. It's the HCL. It's improved government services for the citizens. Okay, it's the new lives that the citizens get and receive after the rate change. It's the improved lives they received after the rate change. Okay, that's what the government program is. Okay, and notice how the government program was actually being discussed by all the newly elected government officials at this National Reconciliation meeting clear back on February 27th of this year of 2019. Okay, the next highlighted key point here says the meeting also touched on basic legislation that concerns the citizens, guys. Again, the basic legislation is part of that government program. Notice how right now they keep telling you they want to amend or need to amend the Constitution. Again, that's amending the Constitution is the basic legislation for the citizens. It's Article 140, it's the HCL. It's those items that the citizens are wanting to have a better life. It's the items that they're now demonstrating about. Okay? But again, what I'm stressing to you from this national reconciliation meeting, guys, is this meeting, they told you they were unified at this meeting. What they're telling you, in my opinion, guys, is that the government is formed and complete. That's what I'm trying to show you from this. Okay, so here's some of the pictures from the National Reconciliation. You guys can see all the newly voted in government officials at this meeting. Okay. Here's a second article talking about the National Reconciliation Meeting, guys. I didn't put any highlighted key points in this because you just saw them on the previous one. Here's some more pictures. Okay, now guys, here's articles of where we're currently at within Iraq. Again, this article is from November 13th of 2019. Within this article, what they're telling you is that Mahdi, the current PM, wants to replace his current cabinet with nonpartisan officials. Okay, so, but notice how Sauter was telling us that back when they had the elections in May of 2018, and they voted in the government, and Sauter didn't complain, but yet Sauter's very vocal and quick to complain if something doesn't go right or it's not the way he wants to see it positioned at that time. Okay, so here's a highlighted key point from this article. It says where the expected ministerial change will remove positions from parties distributed on the basis of sectarian or national party. Okay, guys, so, and then here's a second article talking about, again, this one's from November 16th of 19, so it's pretty current. And what Mahdi's saying here is he wants to replace and reform his cabinet, again, with non-partisan officials. And on that highlighted key point, it says work is underway on major ministerial amendments to the ministries of service and economic, provided that the new ministers are not affiliated with political blocs. Do you guys literally see history repeating itself here? Okay, Sauter, who's the fastest person to complain when things aren't right, he's very vocal. During the election process of May of 18, his goal and objective was to put in place a nonpartisan government, and yet he never complained about the formation of the government. Okay, and then after they formed the government in February of 19, they have a national reconciliation meeting where they announce they're unified and all the members are there, and they have this all-inclusive unified national meeting suggesting to us that they have a newly formed complete government. Okay, and now here we are in December of 19, or I'm sorry, in close to December of 19, and now they're coming out saying that they want to reform, that Mahdi wants to reform his cabinet with nonpartisan officials. Do you guys see history repeating itself, guys? What I'm trying to show you is I strongly feel that the government is done, formed, and complete. Plus, I want to add another layer to that. When Brad and I did our video, I went through in great detail everything that they've worked on through this entire year, showing you how they were setting the stage for the rate change. What I want to stress to you guys is those steps did not start occurring until after that national reconciliation meeting. If you go back to January of this year, you're not going to find any articles telling you that they were working on reconstruction agreements, trade agreements. Those steps, guys, did not start to occur until after that national reconciliation meeting, which occurred on February 27th. I want to stress that to you. Okay? So, guys, what I'm trying to show you factually, that in my opinion, the government is already done, formed, and complete. And all of this current news telling you that Mahdi wants to replace his cabinet is just nonsense, and they're just misleading us because they have to. Okay, so guys, that's how I'm trying to show you the government's done, formed, and complete. I'll record the audio to all these articles. I'll have it narrated for you, so you'll hear it, and here comes the news on that. Take care, guys, and have a great day. And everybody who's new, welcome, and thank you for joining.
Sauter calls for technocratic government in pun-heavy tweet. May 14, 2018. Erbil, Kurdistan region. Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr, whose al-Sayran coalition is emerging as the surprise winner of Iraq's parliamentary election, appeared to call for the formation of a technocratic government in a pun-laden tweet on Monday. In a clever play on words using the names of several parties and coalitions, Sadr seemed to call for a non-partisan, cross-sectarian government. We are Sayran, marching, with hikmah, wisdom, and wataniyah, patriotism, so that the irada, will, of the people be our aim, and to build Jil and Jadidin, a new generation, and to witness Tagir, Gore and change, to the better and for the Al-Qarar decision, to be Iraqi. The tweet on his official account reads, "So we raise the Bayrak, banners, of al-Nasser, victory, and let Baghdad, the capital, be Hariyatuna. Baghdad is our identity, and for our Hirakuna movement, democratic, possibly KDP, towards the formation of a paternal government from technocratic cadres, without partisanship." The tweet adds, "It is not clear whether Sadr deliberately omitted the PUK, the KIU, and Hashd al-Shrabi's al-Fadi. Al-Sayran, marching towards reform, is a coalition of Sadr supporters, some secularists, and the Iraqi Communist Party. According to preliminary election results, the alliance has won the most seats, followed by al-Fadi, pushing Haider al-Abadi's Nasser, victory, alliance into third place. Sadr has long called for a technocratic government in Iraq. Some have interpreted Sadr's tweet as a statement of intent to form a roughly cross-sectarian, all-inclusive coalition government. The proponents of Shia majoritarianism, namely Abadi's Nasser, victory, alliance and Nouri al-Maluki's state of law of coalition, performed poorly in Saturday's election. Details of the Peace Palace meeting. February 27, 2019. 27:02 inches minus 2019 8:42 p.m. held at the Peace Palace in Baghdad and at the invitation of President Barham Salih, on Wednesday, the National Consultative Meeting. The spokesman said that the meeting discussed the political and security developments, the latest developments in the war against terrorism, the situation of the military presence in the country, the implementation of the government program and work to overcome differences. The meeting discussed the need to adopt visions and ideas that help the decision-makers in the administration of the country and achieve its rise and prosperity and solve the problems that stand in the democratic process in Iraq. He said the meeting also touched on the basic legislations that concern the citizen and the relationship between the legislative and executive authorities. Fadli said that both the presidents of the Republic and the ministers and Parliament provided a detailed explanation on the Arab and regional tours and security preparations and the most important files that will be addressed by Parliament in its next legislative term. Most of the invitees discussed the agenda and its impact on opinions and proposals, stressing that meetings should be held periodically in order to approach points of view that would bridge the gap between the political parties and contribute to laying the principles of democracy and justice in a federal Iraq. He said the meeting stressed that the priorities of the Iraqi leaders to preserve the sovereignty of the country and pursue a policy of self-exclusion and move away from the policy of axes and distance the country from regional and international conflicts and be a platform for meeting the interests of the Iraqi people and work to adopt the slogan of Iraq First. The spokesman added that the meeting was attended by the presidents of the Republic, deputies and ministers, the Supreme Court and the Federal Court, and leaders of blocs and political parties and national figures and representatives of various components of Iraqi presidency. At the invitation of the president, the National Consultative Meeting convenes. February 27, 2019. At the invitation of President Barham Salih, a National Consultative Meeting is held at a Salam Palace in Baghdad, Wednesday, February 27, 2019. Ambassador Luqman al-Fadli, spokesman for the president, said that the meeting discussed the developments in political and security situations, the latest updates in the fight against terrorism, and the position on the military presence in the country, as well as conferring about what have been implemented so far of the government program, the problems of delaying the completion of the ministerial formation and how to overcome these disputed issues. He added that the participants discussed the need to adopt a common vision and thoughts to help the politics decision-makers in the management of the country achieve the country's development and prosperity, as well as resolving the problems that stand in the way of the democratic process in Iraq, and also touched upon the basic legislations that concern the citizen and the relation between the legislative and executive branches. Al-Fadli clarified that President Salih referred to the results of his Arab and regional tour and his participation in the Arab-European Summit, which reflects the openness of Iraq towards its brothers and friends. The spokesman also articulated that Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi gave a detailed explanation on the developments in the security arena, notably in the liberated areas, and the preparations of the security forces in this regard. In addition to the government's plans to address a dossier of services, the Speaker of the House of Representatives Mohammed al-Halbousi articulated the most important dossiers to be addressed by the Council in its next legislative term and the constitutional entitlements awaiting discussion by the members of the House of Representatives after the resumption of the Council for its meetings next week. He added that most of the invitees also discussed the agenda and enriched the meeting with views and proposals, and stressed the need to hold meetings periodically for convergence of views that would bridge the differences between the political parties in a way that contributes to laying the principles of democracy and justice in a federal Iraq. Al-Fadli stated that the participants stressed that the priorities of Iraqi leaderships were the need to preserve the sovereignty of the country, adopt the policy of self exclusion and move away from the policy of international axes and to distance the country from regional and international disputes and conflicts, as well as to make Iraq be an arena for convergence of the interests of the Iraqi people and to adopt the motto of Iraq First. The spokesman for the president also said that the meeting was attended by the president, the House Speaker, the Prime Minister, the head of the Supreme Judicial Court, the head of federal court, as well as leaders of the political blocs and parties, nationalist figures and representatives of various Iraqi communities. Sources talk about the formation of the first Iraqi government without parties. November 13, 2019. Baghdad, November 13. Reuters. Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi is about to announce a cabinet reshuffle for his entire cabinet, sources said on Wednesday, and all new faces do not belong to any party. The obelisk could not verify the information from its official sources. According to the information, the new cabinet includes many young graduates and 3 women. Abdul Mahdi plans to submit the names to Parliament in 3 stages, the last of which will end in early December. According to analyses, Abdul Mahdi is trying to exploit popular pressure to get rid of quotas and put parties and Parliament in direct confrontation with the people, where the expected ministerial change will remove positions from parties and distribute it on the basis of sectarian or national or party, which began to arouse the pressure of some parliamentary blocs. The ministerial seat was considered a magnet for generating huge interests and funding for its parties. In the same context, described a member of the House of Representatives, the coalition of Saran Peace Shamwari, the government's move to announce a reshuffle of several ministries as delayed, ruling out their impact on reducing the momentum of the demonstrations. Government spokesman Abdul Mahdi is working on major amendments to ministries of service and economic from outside the political blocs. November 16, 2019. Baghdad obelisk. The spokesman for the Information Office of the Prime Minister, Saad al-Hadithi, Saturday, November 16, 2019. Major reshuffle, major ministerial portfolios outside the political blocs. Saad al-Hadithi said, work is underway on major ministerial amendments to the ministries of service and economic, provided that the new ministers are not affiliated with the political blocs. The Prime Minister, Adel Abdul Mahdi, is working hard to select new ministers for the reshuffle that will soon go to the Parliament, where reforms extend a number of ministries in order to accelerate financial and administrative reform and improve the service reality of the citizens' life through the planned ministries' change in them. He continued, the Prime Minister will adopt new criteria in the selection process, that the process of nomination from outside the political blocs in Parliament, and will provide the Parliament names chosen by himself according to personal conviction of their abilities and competencies. The spokesman of the Information Office of Abdul Mahdi, that the current government by 5 to 6 portfolios were not nominated by the political blocs and selected by the Prime Minister on the basis of competence, and therefore the Prime Minister wishes to complete the process of selection of competencies to approximate the number of portfolios chosen. This is the most important demand for reform, with a new mechanism for the selection of leaders and senior positions in Iraq and the completion of the system of blocs and quotas. And that step will be important to prove the seriousness of the government in the direction of the reform response.